Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I am joined, as always, by the fantastic and wonderful Anne Pinkava. Hi, Anne.
Hello. And this
Yeah.
week's episode is sponsored by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can go to chickenladyfiberarts.com and get beautiful yarns like our own Politically Incorrect Knitters. It's beautiful. And also, special promo that everyone who is a newsletter subscriber on her site will get free shipping on Halloween, and that can stack on top of other promo codes such as PIK Boo 20 for the month of October. And if you happen to be seeing this in November, the code will become PIK Vote 20.
Yes, awesome stuff. So you can use the 20% off code. You can get free shipping, and I mean that's like crazy amounts of free yarn. Like that's another skein of yarn you guys can buy with that. So have at it.
Exactly. Go wild.
Exactly. And also totally non-woke book. Awesome story. We're sponsored by Cody Schlegel and his Odyssey Tale. We're giving away a copy this month. Okay, so I do this every time. I wanted to listen to a humor book, right? Heaven forbid you try to have a sense of humor and you're not woke. Okay, because every character was, gay, trans, they were talking about being ableist at one point. Like, I was so tired of it because it was a cute story and it was funny and it made me giggle, and then I had to turn it off because I just couldn't get over it. So, non-woke story, not exactly humor, but still fun. And then we also are giving away a copy of Little Lives Matter this month. And this is a great story about why every life is precious. And, that's as crazy as that sounds, it is a radical thing today. Actually, it ties into something Anne and I are going to talk about a little bit later. But for now, Anne has knitting. I know you have knitting this week. So let's see what you got.
I do. And I showed a little bit of it on Knitting Wars. So if you haven't checked out that episode yet, we had a live show this past Tuesday, and we were joined by Neil from Blocked Magazine, and his new magazine is coming out on Monday, I believe. And Liz Clothier was also there, and it was a good time. We had a lot of fun.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
We talked a little bit about Fishy Rishi, which we'll do again later because more stuff has come out about him. Well, not come out. He's implemented more policies. We already kind of knew he was a globalist. But anyways, knitting. So I showed this off. It is a fold over brim beanie. And this is a Chicken Lady's yarn, her Lucky Charms yarn, which Tabitha sent me in my winnings box, along with this scarf. See this? Pretty awesome. Murder knit shawl. But
pretty. You didn't make that. I assumed you had at some point.
Oh, no. I did not make this. So Tabitha has this sort of pattern for making murder knit shawls, and they look very easy and very fun to make. So no, I didn't make this one. This is just in the box. But anyways, I did make this, my little Irish harp girl pattern. And I might publish this one, but I'm not sure. If you're interested, say something, because that'll give me the, enthusiasm to finish the project. But I don't even know if it's obvious that it is a she, but I knit specifically in the old English Empire heraldry, or British Empire heraldry. The Irish harp was more of a lady, and then sort of wings backwards with the harp. And I remember it was an old Mark Stein line saying, and then later they changed it so it's just a harp, and they didn't put the sort of masthead lady on the front. And he said that, once they took the breasts off the Irish harp, that's really when the British Empire went downhill. So I wanted to make sure that it's a she on this one.
Well, it's pretty.
Yeah, I like this. I like her. It took a lot of goes to figure that one out. But also this week, and I was just Kitchenering this up while we were sitting here talking, but I did a pair of socks with the Murder Knits yarn by Sweet Mountain Crafts. And here, I'm just gonna stick this on my hand so you can see the pattern better. I don't have fancy sock blockers, but I mean, that's not especially fancy. But yeah, it's the Helgen sock pattern by our pal Anna Knitter.
Pretty
They're DK socks, so they like knit up super fast.
cool.
So there are 2 of them.
Nice. My knitting is a little bit less exciting this week. I have been making things for my kids and things. I'm finishing a Halloween costume. Obviously, one of my kids is going to be a cat. So this guy needs whiskers, but I just tried to sew them on and they were horribly crooked. So I'm going to wait till our show is done so I can lay this out on a table and really get it the way it should be. And then the other thing I have to show you looks weird, but I'll explain it. So my niece is in town. She lives in Miami. She's 4 months old. And so because she lives in Miami, I don't make her a lot of stuff just because she lives in Miami and I knit. So, but it's cool enough here in New York right now that I whipped up a bulky pumpkin hat for her. And this is the crown, because when I make things, I don't generally use a pattern. I don't necessarily even do the math. Like if I'm doing crown decreases and my numbers are wrong, I'll just like fudge it until I get to the point where they all line up. That's how I knit. I know that like makes a lot of people crazy. But because I do it that way, I didn't really remember how I did the crown. So I redid it. It's got a little I-cord little stem that you tie down. But the reason I'm showing you this sample and telling you about it is because if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to find the free pattern on one of my posts. And if you're a newsletter subscriber, I'm going to put it out in the newsletter this week, just because I have not been putting out patterns and I feel like I need to. Just because I've been so busy and I was sick and life was crazy. And now I've got this one. It's super cute. It took me 2 hours to make it for her. Little 4-month baby size, easy peasy. And the other reason I'm doing a free pattern is I'm probably also going to put it on Galilee Life for free because I'm leaving Etsy. And so it's been a hard decision because a lot of people find me on Etsy. Like I'm collaborating with a radio person right now, and they found me through Etsy. And so knowing that that's where a lot of people find me, it's really hard to give up because outside of people who knit, I'm nobody really knows my name, which is fine, but it's hard when there's no way for them to come across you. So I've stayed on Etsy because of that. But Etsy has paired with this company called Plaid, and Plaid has been in trouble for doing shady stuff. They have been accused of selling people's banking information and like social security, like stuff that is generally you never do. They're like, right. Okay, we're gonna do it. And
Etsy is like, you look like somebody who'll be our new best friends.
Yeah, exactly. And so because of that, I do business with my mom, and my stepdad helps me, and so we've talked about it, and it's just not worth it, unfortunately. And going along with that, also, I'm probably going to be doing away with my PayPal because they're reinstating their misinformation fine that's $2,500, or I'm not entirely certain how they're doing it, but I think if you spread misinformation, they're like taking money from you. So
right, it's their damage if you say something they disagree with. Right.
So yeah, so they kind of go hand in hand too, because well, I've always had PayPal because of Etsy, but now they're going to Plaid, so that takes care of it, but I'm still not going to use that company. So I'm going to be promoting my Galilee Life store a lot more. And so my free pumpkin pattern is going to be on my Galilee Life store. And, guys, it's easy to go along with the crowd and just be like, well, we know they're kind of crappy and move along. But And I think we all do that to an extent, but this is one thing that I can't do. I can't let them take my bank information and find me for being my own person and things like that. So I have made the sad and hard decision to totally cut ties with that company. So yeah. And
I'll be getting out of PayPal too, because it really is not worth it. Etsy, I'm going to have to find a couple options, because most of my money from Etsy does not come from patterns. It comes from selling physical hats, and I don't, because the hats I sell are a niche nerd market, it's difficult to take that and move that to a platform like Gallery Life. Not that it's impossible for people to find you, but there is some difficulty there.
right.
So it's going to be difficult moving forward for that. But yeah, PayPal, no, I'm not going to be, charged for nothing, basically. And especially since so much misinformation turns out to be true later. It's crazy.
I know, right? Give it like 3 months and then so hey, if they take my money and then in 3 months I'm right, do I get it back?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
that seems like a thing to me. I don't know. So I didn't mean to get all like heavy right now, but I just it's part of doing business. I feel like I want to tell you guys what's going on, because I want you to understand, this is the stuff we have to deal with. It's not just, oh, what pattern should I put up and stuff. It's like, oh, should I use this thing who's going to sell my information and like
right.
screw me over?
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, but yeah. But going back to our giveaway, because I think that's all the knitting, right, Anne?
I think so.
Yeah. So I said that this book was going to be important, and I wanted to jump into this issue first. So as conservative, Christian, pro-lifers, we feel like little lives are important because we know they are. And it's really sad, honestly, that there has to be a child's book about how important they are, even though it's a good story. But well, there's so many things it ties into. Like in the debates, abortion was a huge issue this week, and it's crazy. But in Canada, there's a case going on right now where a 23-year-old person is going to have doctor-assisted suicide because they are depressed, they have diabetes, and they don't have a girlfriend. And so apparently, according to people in Canada, that is a good enough reason to end somebody's life. And it all ties together. It all ties back to the Little Lives Matters book, because when you don't value life at that stage, you can't value it at any stage. And this is a terrifying, terrifying thing that's going on. I struggle with depression and anxiety. I can't imagine somebody trying to convince me that that's a reason not to live.
Right.
Like it's how can you even do that?
It's a different level of affirming care when you really should be saying, hey, you should be trying to help them through these issues, and not saying like, well, you're right, you should kill yourself.
Right. And but it's something that I've never been a fan of, dying with dignity or, any of that stuff. Yeah, bad things happen. They're talking about people with chronic pain. My mom lives with a disease called the suicide disease because the pain is so bad that many people do commit suicide. That doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve to live. It doesn't mean that she could go to the doctor and have them say, hey, because you have this, we want to kill you.
Yeah. It's like, well, this is terminal. Want to schedule an appointment? What?
Right. It's insane to me. And God, when I was 23, I didn't know anything. And I was in a point in my life where if somebody had been like, hey, you've got depression, we could help you out with this, I would be like, I never would have. But you know what I mean? I was so much more impressionable back then that I can't imagine what would happen if somebody was like, hey, DK, I got you.
Right. No, and it's, I don't know, there's so much like actual, I can't imagine just the amount of actual harm. And it's okay, you talk about actual harm, you talk about medical malpractice or perhaps getting the wrong medication. No, they're straight up killing you, like
Mhm.
straight up for real killing you. And that's like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it's
And
fine.
but also in Canada, old Justin Trudeau says that you cannot buy, sell, or transfer handguns. So, and I'm sure that's for, protecting people's lives. That's normally what is, the argument, though we, as pro-gun people would say that having handguns is a life protection against people who would want to do you harm, and
Mhm.
not, it's the ability to do harm and the ability to stop harm. A gun is a tool. But old blackface Justin doesn't trust the people of Canada to protest peacefully, much less be able to defend themselves against whatever he wants to do next,
Yeah.
or criminals more generally.
It's a tool just like anything else. I was sewing today and I had the pins out and my younger kid was like, "Oh, I'm scared of those." And I'm like, "It's a tool. It's a tool just like anything else. Respect the pin, it won't hurt you. Use it properly, it won't hurt you, you know?"
Right.
It's it's an easy concept, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. It's really
Exactly. And
terrifying.
and it makes people childish too. I mean, like, your kid's a kid,
Mhm.
you know, pins, don't stab yourself with pins. That makes sense. But it is an adult concept to say there is some danger involved with this, whether, anything from a pin to knives to fire to everything else.
Yeah.
That, like, okay, this, heavy machinery. You have to be careful around this, but that doesn't mean that you can never use it. It's knowing how to use it and how to use it safely and to pay attention to it while you're using it. Be
Right.
aware of yourself and others and your surroundings. But
Man,
never,
it kills me.
it's just difficult.
And the fact that we're having the same conversation I have with a 7-year-old with adults about stuff makes me feel like I'm crazy.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem like a conversation I should have to have with other adults. Use the tool properly. The hammer won't hurt you if you use it the way you're supposed to. Yeah, sometimes accidents still do happen, but really, if you practice universal precaution kind of stuff, you'll be okay.
Mhm. It's
Sorry.
conversations that shop teachers have all the time.
Yes.
But
We didn't have shop, but yeah.
oh, I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a private school. We didn't have money for crap. So
Oh,
if it wasn't like one of the basic, like you have to have this to function in life, didn't have it.
okay.
But yeah, can we talk about the debates
Yes.
for a minute? Like, holy crap. So first off, everybody's all like abortion, abortion, abortion. You know, the conservatives try to talk about things like inflation and fracking and somehow a lot of it comes back down to abortion, and I don't understand that. Do you understand how that works?
Well, because the argument is that if a woman can't kill her baby, then she doesn't have personal autonomy.
Oh, what's that got to do with inflation?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so
It's
how
like
are they justifying it? I don't get it.
Republicans want to, take away your rights, your constitutional rights to hang on someone else's body because it's a kid. But it's something I've said before, but it's all these choices in women's health care, but the choice is always in one direction. That there's never like it, they talk about, the pro-choice, the quote right to have an abortion, but if anyone's that there's a that the choice to have lots of kids and have a traditional life, that is balked at by a lot of people, like, no, 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 you can't
Yeah,
possibly do
no,
that. It's like, why not?
we don't want that for you at all, because heaven forbid that you actually are raising a generation of people who don't agree with us. That's probably a
Right.
lot of it.
Right. And how many, people have you heard who, have larger families and they go out in public and people are like, oh, whoa, no, can't do that. It's like, I can't believe that must be so difficult. And they're like, no, I wanted this. And they're like, what?
Right. No,
Yeah.
it's crazy stuff. And a lot of it are these women who, like Kamala, who don't have their own kids and who apparently like seem to think that this is the best thing that has ever happened. And I just don't understand it.
I
But
know. Oh gosh, I saw a clip of her today. Her and her whining, crying voice. Do I say that because she's a woman? No, I say that because she's a
she's
and she's
awful
not
and
making,
obnoxious.
oh my gosh. And she doesn't make any sense. No, it's like no wonder people don't want to look at what our government is doing. You'd have to listen to her and say little, again, infantile things like, oh, who doesn't like a yellow school bus? Ah.
She said that?
Yeah, well, yes, but the thing is that school buses are diesel and like that is harmful to learning, so they have to be electric. It's like, yeah, your kid's going to learn a lot, once it's minus 20 degrees, as it is commonly in South Dakota in the winter, and your electric school bus has issues. Like that's going to be a real learning curve for the kiddos.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what the heating system on an electric school bus is in the winter either. So nothing like kidsicles to really teach a lesson.
Yeah, because we talked about last year, I didn't realize that in the Midwest, like people plug their batteries in so they don't freeze to little solid bricks. And then what the heck do you do when you've got, all the lithium ion batteries and stuff? I don't know how that works. If anybody out there knows, I'd be interested.
Well, I know that my phone, I had a car without heat. I've said this before, but I had a car without heat and I would play music on my phone and, stick it in the cup holder, and my phone would die at the temperature in my car because it was too cold for my phone. So,
well, that's encouraging, isn't it?
Yeah, super good.
So anyway, there were a couple of big debates. I can't think of her name, but the woman running against Whitmer in Michigan did really well. And Fetterman, I don't know what's wrong with the Democratic Party right now. I really, really don't. And I don't understand why they think running people that are obviously impaired is a plan. Is it because they're puppets and they can tell them what to do? Or is it because they are just cheaters and so they feel like they can rig it, or what? I mean, Fetterman is obviously unwell, like severely should be in a rehab facility, unwell, working to get his speech and his cognition back. Mm-hmm. He should not be running for anything. He should not be the lieutenant governor. Right. He should be out of office recovering.
Right.
And
I know it's a question of, can he physically do the job? Sorry, when you're a senator, you have to propose and debate ideas, either for or against bills. You have to do committee meetings. The ability to communicate is essential. It's like, oh, ableist this, ableist that. He started his speech by saying, good night, everyone.
Right. And, I'm not against, like, if he has some auditory processing and the closed captioning helps him, like, understand what people are saying, that's fine. That's a normal, worthwhile accommodation to make for him. But it didn't help him. Mm. So you can't tell me that, oh, he's okay, he just needs a little. No, he needs a lot of extra help. I know that everybody's probably seen the clip of him talking about fracking. Oh, you said you weren't going to do any fracking, and now you say you do like fracking, and what's your stance? Fracking is good. I never said that. I do, yeah, fracking. Like that's not his exact answer, but it was something like that.
That was
like
incredibly close to his exact answer. No, he repeated 4 or 5 times that it's like, I'm for fracking. It's like, and roll the old clip against fracking. Fracking is evil, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is a little
just nuts.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but old fishy Rishi Sunak said that, yeah, I'm for fracking. He's in office. Yeah, we're banning that. Oh, thanks. Because people freezing in England isn't bad enough for you. Okay.
We'll get there.
Yes.
So anyway, after that debate, I don't know how people, and then there are pundits who are going, why couldn't we just keep him under wraps for 2 more weeks? What political plan is that? Let's just not let people see what they're voting for. That doesn't sound like any sort of anything that we go for in this country, and everybody should be appalled, just so you know.
Well,
So that
I
was
don't know. Carrie Lake in Arizona, I think Katie Hobbs is her opposition, but Katie Hobbs, her campaign headquarters were robbed, and it said that it was something like Carrie Lake or her people are behind it, and Carrie Lake said that I don't even know where her campaign headquarters is. It might be her basement, considering how badly she's been campaigning. Like, oh
snap.
Anyways, I love her.
No,
She's
funny. No, she is funny. She's the one who said, oh yeah, I'll do an interview with you on CNN Plus, right? But yeah, so there were a couple of debates that were kind of crazy. And then I blame my father. I missed a lot of the New York debate because I was under the impression it started at 8 and not 7. So I only saw like the last 15 minutes. But in that time, I saw Kathy Hochul say to Lee Zeldin 3 separate times, I don't understand what the point of that is. Because he was making really super good points, like there's a lot of crime, and I think part of the problem is bail. And she's like, I don't know why you're worried about all these criminals. Perhaps because there was a gang shooting outside his house, and this affects New Yorkers. You know, like...
It's like maybe because the parts of New York that people thought were safe, such as Times Square, that people are getting attacked in streets.
Yeah.
You know, what is it that it was something like 14? There's been like 14 different instances of people being pushed on subway lines.
I didn't hear the number, but I saw a video of some guy was in the subway. He just walked up to another guy and pushed him on the tracks and then ran away.
Right.
What is that?
And I believe, and again, I'm quoting this from memory, but I think only 2 or 3 of those people have died. The other ones were able to be rescued, but still.
You should be able to go to the subway without worrying about if they're going to put you on the tracks or not. Like, that's just a normal, and it's like her being like, oh, well, that's why we don't want guns. No, because if I had a gun and somebody did that to me and then I shot him, he would probably think twice about doing it again. Or other people might think twice about it. Like, there's a point in time where you can't tell me you're doing this for my safety. If I cannot concealed carry, which is my right, I don't give a crap what New York thinks, then I cannot protect myself. And if I cannot protect myself, you are making me a victim. And that is not okay.
Right. And it's the idea of protecting yourself and protecting others, that that if you see somebody being, let's say, stabbed in broad daylight in New York, and okay, how do you stop the guy who, you know, we see this a lot in European countries, more commonly than in America, or European countries. I think in Canada a couple times, and, you know, throughout Asia, in a lot of gun-free zones, that you have, you know, maniacs who go on stabbing sprees. Why? Well, because you know, people who want to kill lots of people are going to do it somehow. And Sweden has a huge bombing issue. Why? Because people are going to find ways to kill lots of people. And how do you stop the guy with the knife? You know, how do you, you know, it's I don't know.
Have a bigger knife, I guess, right? They're not allowed to have guns, so.
Well, have a bigger knife, but knife fights are, you're not getting out of those clean, even if you have a knife. Okay, it's bad. Ranged weapon, awesome. Mechanical advantage, especially if you're not as physically strong as the other guy.
As the crazy person. Because
crazy
generally they have all kinds of like crazy endorphins running through them, and they're gonna like be on you anyway. So
they have crazy strength and or drugs.
Crazy strength. Right.
You know,
and we're mean people for saying any of this. Obviously.
Oh, I'm terribly by saying that, you know, little old women walking through the street should not be attacked.
Go figure.
To be able to defend themselves somehow.
Yeah.
And not have to rely on other people.
But I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to get rid of Hochul here in New York, but Zeldin. So I say that one of the biggest issues between like conservatives and Democrats or liberals is that our statements generally tend to be like a paragraph, whereas like liberals are able to condense their stuff into very small snippets that are easy to repeat and easy for people to say, and so it's kind of catchy.
They're more marketing slogan than they are principle.
Right. So what I noticed, especially in the debate, though, was that Zeldin was so composed. He was so eloquent. And that's why Hochul had to come back a couple of times kind of saying, well, I don't know why that matters, or I don't know why you're saying that, or because how can you, when you are, out there saying, oh, well, I'm making gun-free zones safer. And he's like, well, hey, what about all these people getting shot in Times Square? I didn't hear all the debate, but I'm just saying it as example. You can't really argue with that. You can't take I'm making it safer, when he can say, hey, here's this. Well, I don't know why that matters to you. It's freaking nonsense.
Just when he brings up issues, instead of having solutions, she dismisses them.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry, doing the party line here. I don't know what else I could possibly do.
Yeah, and also she looks like she's sucking lemons the whole time she's talking too, which just makes me feel crazy. And my favorite part that I saw,
Whitmer's plastic surgeon.
But the favorite part of all of it was she was a representative or a senator or something in Buffalo, which is, a few hours from here. And when she was up here in Buffalo, she was part of the NRA. She was endorsed by the NRA. She had a great rating by them. So it's a great example of how she has changed her politics to fit into what they need her to be.
Right.
So you can't trust her anyway.
Flip right away.
Right. It's crazy. Anyway, so the debates were crazy. That's what I know about. I didn't see all of them. I did see some of them. And I know that this was a big election, but after watching them, I'm not sure it's going to be terrible if we lose. But after watching the things, I don't know how we can lose. Watching our candidates against the other side. I mean, if you have two brain cells to rub together, you're going to know that some of this stuff is just straight up crap and you're not going to accept it. But we'll have to see what happens.
Well, and also just to talk a little bit about that. I mean, there's plenty of people, and for plenty of good reason, who could distrust our elections. So thing one, fixing stuff doesn't happen overnight, and there's a lot more people with their eyes on the issue. And the old Hillary Clinton is out saying that the Republican-led Supreme Court is fixing the elections by giving the rights of the Electoral College and those electors to the governors, and how evil and what a harm to democracy that is. So there's a lot of people working everywhere to make sure that elections are actually free and fair. But in addition to that, it's the possibility of doing good and getting out there and voting versus the certainty of not, which is staying home and sulking. So you really have to, gotta do the best you can with whatever you got.
Yeah, do the best with what you have, and also vote the day of, vote later, try to get out there so that they can't do as much fixing as they did the last time around.
Right.
I know that I have a friend that's disabled, and she said she always votes ahead of time because she's disabled and it's hard for her to wait and things. She's like, I'm going later. I'm going to go. I'll sit in line as long as I have to because it's important. Yep. And I don't want to be a crazy conspiracy theorist, but I think we kind of have to, like, not have to, but it's good to look at things and know not everybody is on the up and up.
Right.
And also, to plan ahead.
And also, we are the only country who allows things like, ballot drop boxes and unlimited mail-in voting. They tried this in France. France said, nah, it's way too easy to cheat. That like Botswana, and not saying anything against Botswana, but we think like, oh, we're much better here in America. We're not, but African countries looking at our voting system would think they're horrible and corrupt. And
because they are.
right.
Because anytime that you can do, I can walk into my polling place. Nobody there knows me. I tell them my name and my address. I could say I was anybody. They don't ask for my ID. They don't know anything. I could totally go in and steal votes. I could mail fraud. There's no regulations, and voter ID is not racist. I don't give a crap who you are. Most people have some form of ID because you cannot drive a car, you cannot get your assistant, you cannot buy a lotto ticket, you cannot buy beer, you cannot live life without having a form of ID. My mother is part of the medical cannabis program here in New York. I have a photo ID to get her medicine because I am a caregiver for her, and I have a New York State ID that says I am allowed to get her cannabis. So therefore, it's not just for driving. There are all kinds of ID, and to say that people don't have them is actually racist.
Right.
Because you're insinuating that people are too stupid to know how to get an ID. And you're also saying that people don't do normal things like buy alcohol, buy lotto tickets, buy cigarettes. All of those things require ID. Driving a car, freaking schools put out IDs. It's not racist. All I gotta say. Sorry. I didn't mean to get on that rant, but
no, it is ridiculous. And also it's one of those things where the only people saying that it's racist are white people.
Right.
Like, it's true.
Well, the reason I'm so big on the alcohol thing is because my dad sells beer. And so my dad knows tons and tons and tons of people. And in different gas stations and bars and things, he's talked to people and he said, hey, do you know anybody who doesn't have an ID? Do you have anybody who, and they're all like, no, people have IDs because you have to have an ID to function in your life. I mean, I think you have to have an ID of some sort to work. It's not, it's the racism of low expectations. It's this whole, we're going to put the least amount of things on you because we don't think you can handle it. And if I were one of these groups, I'd be pissed because you think that little of me.
Right. And that kind of goes into next point here, unless you had more to say with the debate.
No, I think I've ranted enough. Thank you.
Okay. So we talked about the importance of having a photo ID for voting, but there is more insidious things coming. So Rishi Sunak, the new Prime Minister of England, or Rashid Sunak, if you're Joe Biden, which was, wow, that was something. But he, okay,
why is anybody surprised, Dan? Why is anybody surprised?
All right, so Fishy Rishi comes out. He is all fresh faced and he's only on day one and he's already doing creepy crap. So Liz Truss, former prime minister, was only in for like 6 weeks, and most of that was mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth. Like, they had government was kind of halted during that time. So Rishi comes out and first off says that it was a combination of Liz Truss and Vladimir Putin, which is the reason that England is in the financial trouble it is in now. So yeah. And it's not that he wants to say anything bad about his colleagues, of course.
Because in 6 weeks, I'm sure that she was like right up Putin's butt and totally did something terrible in 6 weeks, because that makes sense.
Here's the sort of circular reasoning here. So Liz Truss put out a mini budget, and in the mini budget, she proposed a 5% tax cut, and then the pound tanked because the banks freaked out. Okay. Except here's this funny old thing. So Rishi Sunak and his father-in-law own this banking company that really is into digital IDs. So I would think he would have a little bit of influence with the banks if they're like freaking out about the pound. Also, he had a campaign ready after Boris Johnson. So, Boris Johnson is, couldn't take the pressure anymore after Cake Gate and that stupidity, frankly. But Rishi Sunak had his campaign ready because he had been ready with that for a while. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer at that time. He was the money guy. So all of the crap that was pulled through the pandemic, yeah, that was his thing. And billions of dollars spent on furlough. And I mean, part of that makes sense at the beginning of COVID. If you're shutting everybody down, that you want to, give people unemployment when they could not work. But that went on for ages. And he's just fishing out money left and right. And then he pops up like a new penny, like, hey, this isn't my problem at all. I can't believe that Liz Truss, who was only in for 5 minutes. And Jeremy Hunt is also his Chancellor of the Exchequer. He was the same under Liz Truss. And there was a definite shift in Liz Truss's administration once Jeremy Hunt got that job. He's the only person more plasticky than Rishi. And
okay, I got a question. Yeah. What's the Chancellor of the whatever?
Think of it as Treasury Secretary.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Of the Exchequer, but yes.
Okay.
But yeah, so Jeremy Hunt comes in, and that's when Suella Braverman and a lot of other people, though Suella, okay, so technically she had to resign from Liz Truss's government because she sent an email from a private email and not a government email, and it was government business. So that is considered a breach of privacy, and she had to resign.
Oh, so she had to resign, but when somebody in the US does it, that's fine?
Oh, that's cool. That's totally cool.
It's only bad in other countries. Got it.
Yeah. If you're like a high-level secretary and perhaps the wife of a former president, you can have as many emails on a personal server as you like. That's fine.
Okay, good. Good. Thanks. I'm glad you cleared that up for me.
Yeah, that's perfect. But anyway, so she is reinstated in the British government, Suella Braverman. Let's see.
Wait, I thought she was in trouble. So now she's okay now that the new guy's in?
Resigned under Liz Truss, but she is reinstated under Rishi Sunak. She is Secretary of State for the Home Department.
Seems weird to me. Okay.
Suella,
anyway.
Yeah, Suella ain't bad though. She is very much for no more open borders. So, point in her direction. But so all of this goes on, and it's a big shuffle, and everyone's saying, you have to unite under Rishi Sunak because, that's the best thing for the country. And if you don't, you're horrible. When, like I said before, he said, yes, we are banning fracking, even though, if you actually want to get off Russian oil, that is the best way to do it. Actually make England energy independent. Actually want lower energy prices and cleaner energy because it is cleaner when done in England than in other countries.
Nobody wants actually any of those things. They just want to say it. Don't
right.
You know? Okay.
Yeah. And also, so this whole digital ID banking scheme that Rishi Sunak benefits from because it's his family business has also been supported by the World Economic Forum, of which he's a member, as being a great idea. And also, weirdly enough, the Chinese used to say it was a really great idea, the old CCP. And then during his last little campaign thing, he came out all big and buff against the Chinese and against their Confucius Institutes, and that being part of China's soft power scheme around the world, which it is. But it's kind of important because, after all, the social credit system is something that goes on in China very prevalently, and is something that's very easy to do with banking systems. They're already doing it in Denmark, where some grocery stores will give you a little carbon rating at the bottom of your receipt. Like, you bought too much meat and that's not good. Why don't you go for some cricket paste? So, yes.
For real. The grocery store is shaming you about what you buy.
Yes.
So, you know what? I can buy whatever I want to. If I want to feed my family ice cream every day for our entire life, that's not anybody's business but mine. Maybe our doctors, maybe once we get diabetes, it'll be something. But, it's not the grocery store's business.
It is not. Nor is it your bank's business if you happen to donate to a Canadian trucker convoy, but they shut that up pretty badly. In addition to that, it's not their business what kind of cars you drive or anything else. And in fact, coming up to this, I would like to emphatically say that when you earn money, that money is your own, and it's not anyone's business what you do with it. Because Rishi Sunak also first day publishes this lovely glowing lighting video about how he has a proposal for England to move to a digital currency, and it will be great because the government itself, like a government online Bank of England, will issue you currency and write into your online account and basically give you vouchers for your own money. Isn't that great? Isn't that a great idea?
No, but I would rather have cash for the rest of my life and not have, I would get off of social media. I would do all the stuff. I don't want them telling me what to do. I mean, they already do to an extent, but no,
they do.
My money.
But it's an idea that you don't even own your own money, and they can. I mean, with all digital transactions, they can track everything. And also, funny old story this week about social media companies. So they have your location, so they also see what you see online because of what you like and what you interact with. Social media companies like Facebook, you can go in and see what they believe your political leanings are. It's something you can actually find in your settings. So
for real?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but here's the thing. So because they have your location, they targeted liberal ads to people who had conservative accounts, but people who stayed home more during lockdown. So you have the people who, the terrible people who break lockdown, who are just still going about their lives, and you can tell by their phone movements that they're moving around a lot. But the more Republican voters who stayed at home more, they focused their advertising towards them because frankly, they're freaked out already. So they were more able to turn votes that way.
That's diabolical.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Right. And you have things like the World Economic Forum who say things like, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And this funny old thing of if you decide that you don't like owning nothing, that doesn't make you happy, can't change it now. But here's the thing, because you have governments, and you have governments who are literally being lobbied. You could even say colonize, because part of colonization is somebody else running their government from people from your government in a way that you deem fit. It makes sense that way. But you have private entities who are all working to the same drumbeat, in combination with more and more political entities worldwide who are all on the same page. So, in a certain amount, social media companies are have more strength than many governments in their reach and control. And then you have them working over top of governments. So in a true fascist sense, they're working together. But it's also a level of that even if all of the governments of the world were clean and fair, if you have all of the corporations working as one to enforce behavior on people, that's its own form of tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to be weird here, but they are all doing the same thing.
Not to be weird, but come on, man.
Not to be weird here, but digital currency is easily tracked. And when your card suddenly doesn't work because you're not doing, the correct thing anymore. There is a proposed thing in Oxford, Mr. Enright. He divided Oxford into 5 zones. And he says that it's best for everyone's carbon footprint if you stay within your zone. And if you leave your zone more than twice a week, then you'll get a fine.
Why? Because you can't drive, or you can't?
because you should stay in a small area. The horizons of your life should shrink unless you're an important person. If you say that I would rather drive to the grocery store across town because I think the deals are better and I like their quality of produce, you can't do that because that's across town. You got to deal with the one here, which is less competition for the one here. So, they can jack up their prices. The idea that more competition is better, the freedom of movement of people, that you have the right to shop where you want or go where you want or spend your money where you want, that. And all of environmental agenda is you, the people, are not smart enough to run your own life. It's the government who is smarter. It's the experts who are smarter. You don't even have the right to make what may be considered mistakes. You should just lockstep with the rest of us. And I mean, we're out here going like, I just want to buy a burger. And after all of these years of COVID regulations where there were no exceptions, if you had medical conditions, if you had, allergies to shots, even the most simple things that you had to fall into lockstep anyways, I'm sure the people who do the climate thing will be kind and benevolent and think about your specific situation.
So all I've heard from you is that pretty much the world is in the toilet and I should get my own commune. Is that about right?
Well, unless you live in Ireland because they don't want you to farm cattle anymore, if that was part of your commune.
I'm not a fan of any of this.
This all sucks. Let's just put that up. But luckily, on the other end of things, we do have some good news. It's not all, Joe Biden wants it mandated that all cars must have a remote shut off by 2026.
Why? So that they can control us and where we go and what we do?
That's right, because your car isn't owned by you either.
Yeah. So.
But in happier news, and by happier, I mean, but there was a poll in Australia, and the poll, it was about 50,000 people, and over half of Australians say that in Australia, as you know, that their jab mandates were much worse than a lot of the world, that working, going to stores, everything, life was made incredibly difficult for them. But anyways, that more than half of Australians either regret getting the jab or are happy that they never got it. There was actually 0 out of all of those people who said that they regret not taking the jab. Now, you could say to a certain extent that if you regret not taking it, you could go out and get it immediately. But still, nobody regretted not taking it. And out of 45,000 people, only 35% of them are happy that they got the jab and would do it again. Also, statistically, that is a similar number to the people who got the jab before the mandates. So if you were already on board, yes, I'm getting that vaccine, and you're happy with it, it's sort of like when people are forced to do a thing, they resent it.
Go figure. You mean that when you make me do something that I didn't really want to do, and then you ask me how I feel about it, I'm going to say I don't like it?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like begrudgingly having to take medical procedures that you didn't want kind of ticks people off.
I don't know why.
It's crazy. But no, there is a mental shift going through, that there is, I believe it was in Alberta, but again, this is off the top of my head, I didn't write it down, where that there are different like Canadian political members who are apologizing for the treatment of the unvaccinated and, talking about how horrible it is. So there are these things happening. There are, again, there's Dutch protests, which are still really rough on them. As again, the protests where the government are making people sell their farms for ostensibly for climate reasons, but also quietly to build housing for their influx of immigrants, which, you'd think you'd still need food.
Well, don't you know that food comes from the supermarket, Anne?
Don't you know
Isn't
that?
isn't that what the whatever this generation is called thinks like, oh, just go to the supermarket and get it. So whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, totally. It's not actually food unless it comes from a plastic packet. And while you're at it, don't look into microplastics in the system. That would be disastrous.
Shoot, there's something I just thought of I wanted to tell you. Yeah, maybe it'll come back.
Well,
Seriously, the whole economic thing makes me crazy. And then the racism of low expectations, and all we're doing to people is making them accept that life can't be good. That's
right.
really what it is. It's like, oh, well, life is meh, meh. You
Right.
shouldn't expect much from it.
It's the most basic founding principle that people are equal in the eyes of God and ought to be equal in the eyes of the government. That everybody is of equal value and have equal rights, and those rights are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, which sounds trite, except they are that you have, right to be, that you have a right to do what you will with your own life, and to do and not have anyone dictate what that is, minus the confines of the law, like, happiness for your life can't be murdering people. Sorry, bummer. But that you are free to do what you like. And the more government gets involved and the more other people are telling you what to do and, impeding how to run a business, how to be successful in whichever way you want to do, the worse. It's the worst for people. And yeah, it's terrible. And micromanaging people's lives for whatever excuse, for whatever greater good, just leads to harm and misery. And so many times, that, it's for the greater good. It's for the greater good. If you don't do this, you hate people. If you don't agree with what we want exactly now, it's because you want people to die because of the environment. It's because you're killing Granny. It's because you're doing this and doing that. And it really isn't the best for people. It's just a loud rhetoric.
Yeah. It's a true story.
Anyways, everybody, get out and vote.
Yeah, it's coming up. Make sure you're informed. And I mean, Anne and I try to talk about the stuff that's going on, but each area has its own nuances. Make sure you know what people are standing for. I talk about Lee Zeldin, who is the Republican candidate. He wasn't our first choice, but he's what's on the ballot. And, you gotta weigh what's going on and make sure you know. Yeah. So inform yourselves, even though I know most of us actually prefer to not watch the news because it's awful. Yeah. And hey, we're going to have a live on voting day with Carrie Smith.
Yeah,
so make sure you tune in for that. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, assuming that schedules and everything work out, but they should work out.
Oh, and in about 2 weeks, and I'm going to talk to you about the date, but in about 2 weeks too, Anne and I are planning something really special for you guys on a Saturday afternoon. So keep your eyes open for more info about that because it should be awesome. So make sure you enter. Make sure you enter to win our giveaway this month. Little Lives Matter, Odyssey Tale. Totally forgot the name of Cody's book. Sorry, Cody. And, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on social medias. Make sure you know where Anne and I are, because like I said, I'm going to be off Etsy. If you want my patterns, they're going to be available on Galilee Life. Anne's got hers on Lovecraft. So make sure that you are following us with people who don't, want to steal our money. And
we're also on Rumble, remember, just in case.
Oh, yes.
Something funny.
Yeah. When YouTube decides they hate us, we'll still be on Rumble. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, enter to win, follow, all the stuff. All right. Yep. We'll talk to you guys soon.
And also Chicken Lady Fiber Arts.
Yes.
Right.
We love her.
let's not forget her. The October code for 20% off your order is PIKBOO20 at chickenladyfiberarts.com. Remember, if you are a newsletter subscriber, you get a free shipping code for Halloween, and that can stack on top of your 20% off, as well as the November code, which is PIK Vote 20, in case you're watching this in November. You can get beautiful yarns like Lucky Charm at her website. Also, she has her knit along still, that it is in October, November, December, make along on Facebook and Instagram. Each time you post a picture of what you're working on, use the hashtag get an entry. By using Chicken Lady Fiber Arts yarn, you get 2 entries. And by using a pattern by Devin from Knitty McPurley or Liz Clothier, who was on our show on Tuesday, you get 3 entries, and you have to tag them on Facebook or Instagram. And then you have to use the hashtag CLFAMALQ422. So that is Chicken Lady Fiber Arts Make Along Q4 2022, which is a lot, but it's on post.
Hey, Lynn, I think I might have put the hashtag in wrong last week. So there might be another one you might want to check just in case. I'm sorry about that. But if I told people to do it, that's my bad. I apologize. So I will make sure that this time I put the correct hashtag in. Make sure you join Lynn for her make along. And thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.